Section 57 of the Book of Household Management. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The Book of Household Management by Isabella Beeton. Recipes, Chapter 25, Part 4. Boiled salad, 1151. Ingredients: 2 heads of celery, 1 pint of French beans, lettuce and endive. Mode: boil the celery and beans separately until tender, and cut the celery into pieces about 2 inches long. Put these into a salad bowl or dish, pour over either of the sauces number 506, 507 or 508, and garnish the dish with a little lettuce finely chopped, blanched endive, or a few tufts of boiled cauliflower. This composition, if less agreeable than vegetables in their raw state, is more wholesome, for salads, however they may be compounded, when eaten uncooked, prove to some people indigestible. Tarragon, chervil, burnet, and boiled onion may be added to the above salad with advantage, as also slices of cold meat, poultry, or fish. Seasonable from July to October. Acetarious vegetables. By the term acetarious vegetables is expressed a numerous class of plants of various culture and habit, which are principally used as salads, pickles, and condiments. They are to be considered rather as articles of comparative luxury than as ordinary food, and are more desirable for their coolness or their agreeable flavour than for their nutritive powers. Cauliflower. The cauliflower is less indigestible than the cabbage. It possesses a most agreeable flavour, and is sufficiently delicate to be served at the tables of the wealthy. It is a wholesome vegetable, but should be eaten moderately, as it induces flatulence. Persons of weak constitutions and delicate stomachs should abstain from cauliflower as much as possible. They may be prepared in a variety of ways, and in selecting them the whitest should be chosen, those tinged with green or yellow being of indifferent quality. Summer salad, 1152. Ingredients: 3 lettuces, 2 handfuls of mustard and cress, 10 young radishes, a few slices of cucumber. Mode: let the herbs be as fresh as possible for a salad, and, if at all stale or dead-looking, let them lie in water for an hour or 2, which will very much refresh them. Wash and carefully pick them over, remove any decayed or worm-eaten leaves, and drain them thoroughly by swinging them gently in a clean cloth. With a silver knife, cut the lettuces into small pieces, and the radishes and cucumbers into thin slices. Arrange all these ingredients lightly on a dish, with the mustard and cress, and pour under, but not over the salad, either of the sauces number 506, 507, or 508, and do not stir it up until it is to be eaten. It may be garnished with hard-boiled eggs cut in slices, sliced cucumbers, nasturtiums, cut vegetable flowers, and many other things that taste will always suggest to make a pretty and elegant dish. In making a good salad, care must be taken to have the herbs freshly gathered and thoroughly drained before the sauce is added to them, or it will be watery and thin. Young spring onions, cut small, are by many persons considered an improvement to salads, but before these are added, the cook should always consult the taste of her employer. Slices of cold meat or poultry added to a salad make a convenient and quickly made summer luncheon dish, or cold fish, flaked, will also be found exceedingly nice mixed with it. Average cost, 9d. for a salad for 5 or 6 persons, but more expensive when the herbs are forced. Sufficient for 5 or 6 persons. Seasonable from May to September. Cucumbers. The cucumber is refreshing, but neither nutritious nor digestible, and should be excluded from the regimen of the delicate. There are various modes of preparing cucumbers. When gathered young they are called gherkins. These pickled are much used in seasonings. Radishes. This is the common name given to the root of the Raphanus satius, one of the varieties of the cultivated horseradish. There are red and white radishes, and the French have also what they call violet and black ones, of which the black are the larger. Radishes are composed of nearly the same constituents as turnips, that is to say, mostly fibre and nitrogen, and being generally eaten raw, it is on the last of these that their flavour depends. They do not agree with people, except those who are in good health, and have active digestive powers, for they are difficult of digestion and cause flatulency and wind, and are the cause of headaches when eaten to excess. Besides being eaten raw, they are sometimes but rarely boiled, and they also serve as a pretty garnish for salads. In China, the radish may be found growing naturally, without cultivation, and may be occasionally met with in England as a weed, in similar places to where the wild turnip grows. It, however, thrives best in the garden, and the ground it likes best is a deep open loam or a well-manured sandy soil. Winter salad, 1153. Ingredients: endive, mustard and cress, boiled beetroot, 3 or 4 hard-boiled eggs, celery. Mode: the above ingredients form the principal constituents of a winter salad, and may be converted into a very pretty dish by nicely contrasting the various colours and by tastefully garnishing it. Shred the celery into thin pieces, after having carefully washed and cut away all worm-eaten pieces. Cleanse the endive and mustard and cress free from grit, and arrange these high in the centre of a salad bowl or dish. Garnish with the hard-boiled eggs and beetroot, both of which should be cut in slices, and pour into the dish, but not over the salad, either of the sauces No. 506, 507, or 508. Never dress a salad long before it is required for table, as by standing it loses its freshness and pretty, crisp, and light appearance. The sauce, however, may always be prepared a few hours beforehand, and when required for use, the herbs laid lightly over it. Average cost, 9d. for a salad for 5 or 6 persons. Sufficient for 5 or 6 persons. Seasonable from the end of September to March. Salads. Salads are raw vegetables, of which, among us, the lettuce is the most generally used. Several others, however, such as cresses, celery, onions, beetroot, etc., are occasionally employed. As vegetables eaten in a raw state are apt to ferment on the stomach, and as they have very little stimulative power upon that organ, they are usually dressed with some condiments, such as pepper, vinegar, salt, mustard, and oil. Respecting the use of these, medical men disagree, especially in reference to oil, which is condemned by some and recommended by others. Potato salad. 1154. Ingredients: 10 or 12 cold boiled potatoes, 4 tablespoonfuls of tarragon or plain vinegar, 6 tablespoonfuls of salad oil, pepper and salt to taste, 1 teaspoonful of minced parsley. Mode. Cut the potatoes into slices about ½ inch in thickness. Put these into a salad bowl with oil and vinegar in the above proportion. Season with pepper, salt, and a teaspoonful of minced parsley. Stir the salad well, that all the ingredients may be thoroughly incorporated, and it is ready to serve. This should be made 2 or 3 hours before it is wanted for table. Anchovies, olives, or pickles may be added to this salad, as also slices of cold beef, fowl, or turkey. Seasonable at any time. Chicken salad, see No. 931. Grouse salad, see No. 1020. Lobster salad, see No. 272. To boil spinach, English mode. 1155. Ingredients: 2 pailfuls of spinach, 2 heaped tablespoonfuls of salt, 1 oz of butter, pepper to taste. Mode. Pick the spinach carefully and see that no stalks or weeds are left amongst it. Wash it in several waters, and to prevent it being gritty, act in the following manner. Have ready 2 large pans or tubs filled with water. Put the spinach into one of these and thoroughly wash it. Then, with the hands, take out the spinach and put it into the other tub of water. By this means, all the grit will be left at the bottom of the tub. Wash it again, and should it not be perfectly free from dirt, repeat the process. Put it into a very large saucepan with about ½ a pint of water, just sufficient to keep the spinach from burning, and the above proportion of salt. Press it down frequently with a wooden spoon that it may be done equally, and when it has boiled for rather more than 10 minutes, or until it is perfectly tender, drain it in a colander, squeeze it quite dry, and chop it finely. Put the spinach into a clean stewpan with the butter and a seasoning of pepper. Stir the whole over the fire until quite hot, then put it on a hot dish and garnish with sippets of toasted bread. Time, 10 to 15 minutes to boil the spinach, 5 minutes to warm with the butter. Average cost for the above quantity, 8d. Sufficient for 5 or 6 persons. Seasonable: spring spinach from March to July, winter spinach from November to March. Note: grated nutmeg, pounded mace, or lemon juice may also be added to enrich the flavour, and poached eggs are also frequently served with spinach. They should be placed on the top of it, and it should be garnished with sippets of toasted bread. Varieties of spinach. These comprise the strawberry spinach, which, under that name, was wont to be grown in our flower gardens. The good King Harry, the garden oracle, the prickly, and the round are the varieties commonly used. The oracle is a hardy sort, much esteemed in France, and is a native of Tartary, introduced in 1548. The common spinach has its leaves round, and is softer and more succulent than any of the brassica tribe. Spinach dressed with cream à la Française. 1156. Ingredients: 2 pailfuls of spinach, 2 tablespoonfuls of salt, 2 oz of butter, 8 tablespoonfuls of cream, 1 small teaspoonful of pounded sugar, a very little grated nutmeg. Mode. Boil and drain the spinach as in recipe No. 1155. Chop it finely and put it into a stewpan with the butter. Stir over a gentle fire, and when the butter has dried away, add the remaining ingredients and simmer for about 5 minutes. Previously to adding the cream, boil it first in case it should curdle. Serve on a hot dish and garnish either with sippets of toasted bread or leaves of puff paste. Time, 10 to 15 minutes to boil the spinach, 10 minutes to stew with the cream. Average cost for the above quantity, 8d. Sufficient for 5 or 6 persons. Seasonable: spring spinach from March to July, winter spinach from November to March. Spinach. This is a Persian plant. It has been cultivated in our gardens about 200 years and is the most wholesome of vegetables. It is not very nutritious, but it is very easily digested. It is very light and laxative. Wonderful properties have been ascribed to spinach. It is an excellent vegetable and very beneficial to health. Plainly dressed, it is a resource for the poor. Prepared luxuriantly, it is a choice dish for the rich. Spinach. This vegetable belongs to a suborder of the Salsolaceae, or saltworts, and is classified under the head of Spirolidae, with leaves shaped like worms and of a succulent kind. In its geographical distribution, it is commonly found in extratropical and temperate regions, where they grow as weeds in waste places and among rubbish, and in marshes by the seashore. In the tropics, the order is rarely found. Many of them are used as pot herbs, and some of them are emetic and vermifuge in their medicinal properties. French mode of dressing spinach. 1157. Ingredients: 2 pailfuls of spinach, 2 tablespoonfuls of salt, 2 ounces of butter, 1 teaspoonful of flour, 8 tablespoonfuls of good gravy, when liked, a very little grated nutmeg. Mode. Pick, wash, and boil the spinach as in recipe No. 1155, and when quite tender, drain and squeeze it perfectly dry from the water that hangs about it. Chop it very fine, put the butter into a stewpan, and lay the spinach over that. Stir it over a gentle fire, and dredge in the flour. Add the gravy, and let it boil quickly for a few minutes that it may not discolour. When the flavour of nutmeg is liked, grate some to the spinach, and when thoroughly hot and the gravy has dried away a little, serve. Garnish the dish with sippets of toasted bread. Time: 10 to 15 minutes to boil the spinach, 10 minutes to simmer in the gravy. Average cost, for the above quantity, 8d. Sufficient for 5 or 6 persons. Seasonable: spring spinach from March to July, winter spinach from October to February. Note: for an entremet or second course dish, spinach, dressed by the above recipe, may be pressed into a hot mould. It should then be turned out quickly and served very hot. Baked tomatoes. Excellent. 1158. Ingredients: 8 or 10 tomatoes, pepper and salt to taste, 2 ounces of butter, breadcrumbs. Mode. Take off the stalks from the tomatoes, cut them into thick slices, and put them into a deep baking dish. Add a plentiful seasoning of pepper and salt, and butter in the above proportion. Cover the whole with breadcrumbs, drop over these a little clarified butter, bake in a moderate oven from 20 minutes to half an hour, and serve very hot. This vegetable, dressed as above, is an exceedingly nice accompaniment to all kinds of roast meat. The tomatoes, instead of being cut in slices, may be baked whole, but they will take rather longer time to cook. Time: 20 minutes to half an hour. Average cost, in full season, 9d. per basket. Sufficient for 5 or 6 persons. Seasonable in August, September, and October, but may be had forced much earlier. Tomatoes. The tomato is a native of tropical countries, but is now cultivated considerably both in France and England. Its skin is of a brilliant red, and its flavour, which is somewhat sour, has become of immense importance in the culinary art. It is used both fresh and preserved. When eaten fresh, it is served as an entremet, but its principal use is in sauce and gravy. Its flavour stimulates the appetite and is almost universally approved. The tomato is a wholesome fruit and digests easily. From July to September they gather the tomatoes green in France, not breaking them away from the stalk. They are then hung head downwards in a dry and not too cold place, and there they ripen. Hot tomato sauce or puree of tomatoes, see No. 529. Stewed tomatoes 1. 1159. Ingredients: 8 tomatoes, pepper and salt to taste, 2 ounces of butter, 2 tablespoonfuls of vinegar. Mode. Slice the tomatoes into a lined saucepan, season them with pepper and salt, and place small pieces of butter on them. Cover the lid down closely and stew from 20 to 25 minutes, or until the tomatoes are perfectly tender. Add the vinegar, stir 2 or 3 times, and serve with any kind of roast meat, with which they will be found a delicious accompaniment. Time: 20 to 25 minutes. Average cost, in full season, 9d. per basket. Sufficient for 4 or 5 persons. Seasonable from August to October, but may be had forced much earlier. Analysis of the tomato. The fruit of the love apple is the only part used as an esculent, and it has been found to contain a particular acid, a volatile oil, a brown, very fragrant extracto-resinous matter, a vegeto-mineral matter, mucosaccharine, some salts, and in all probability an alkaloid. The whole plant has a disagreeable odour, and its juice, subjected to the action of the fire, emits a vapour so powerful as to cause vertigo and vomiting. Stewed tomatoes 2. 1160. Ingredients: 8 tomatoes, about half a pint of good gravy, thickening of butter and flour, cayenne and salt to taste. Mode. Take out the stalks of the tomatoes, put them into a wide stewpan, pour over them the above proportion of good brown gravy, and stew gently until they are tender, occasionally, carefully turning them, that they may be equally done. Thicken the gravy with a little butter and flour worked together on a plate, let it just boil up after the thickening is added, and serve. If it be at hand, these should be served on a silver or plated vegetable dish. Time: 20 to 25 minutes, very gentle stewing. Average cost in full season 9d per basket. Sufficient for 4 or 5 persons. Seasonable in August, September and October, but may be had forced much earlier. The tomato or love apple. This vegetable is a native of Mexico and South America, but is also found in the East Indies, where it is supposed to have been introduced by the Spaniards. In this country it is much more cultivated than it formerly was, and the more the community becomes acquainted with the many agreeable forms in which the fruit can be prepared, the more widely will its cultivation be extended. For ketchup, soups and sauces it is equally applicable, and the unripe fruit makes one of the best pickles. Truffles au naturel. 1161. Ingredients: truffles, buttered paper. Mode. Select some fine truffles, cleanse them by washing them in several waters with a brush until not a particle of sand or grit remains on them. Wrap each truffle in buttered paper and bake in a hot oven for quite an hour. Take off the paper, wipe the truffles, and serve them in a hot napkin. Time 1 hour. Average cost not often brought in this country. Seasonable from November to March. The common truffle. This is the tuber cibarium of science, and belongs to that numerous class of esculent fungi distinguished from other vegetables not only by the singularity of their forms, but by their chemical composition. Upon analysis they are found not only to contain the usual components of the vegetable kingdom, such as carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen, but likewise a large proportion of nitrogen, from which they approach more nearly to the nature of animal flesh. It was long ago observed by Dr. Darwin that all the mushrooms cooked at our tables, as well as those used for ketchup, possessed an animal flavour, and soup enriched by mushrooms only has sometimes been supposed to contain meat. To dress truffles with champagne. 1162. Ingredients: 12 fine black truffles, a few slices of fat bacon, 1 carrot, 1 turnip, 2 onions, a bunch of savoury herbs including parsley, 1 bay leaf, 2 cloves, 1 blade of pounded mace, 2 glasses of champagne, half a pint of stock. Carefully select the truffles, reject those that have a musty smell, and wash them well with a brush in cold water only until perfectly clean. Put the bacon into a stewpan with the truffles and the remaining ingredients. Simmer these gently for an hour and let the whole cool in the stewpan. When to be served, re-warm them and drain them on a clean cloth, then arrange them on a delicately white napkin, that it may contrast as strongly as possible with the truffles, and serve. The trimmings of truffles are used to flavour gravies, stock, sauces, etc., and are an excellent addition to ragouts, made dishes of fowl, etc. Time 1 hour. Average cost not often bought in this country. Seasonable from November to March. The truffle. The truffle belongs to the family of the mushroom. It is certain that the truffle must possess, equally with other plants, organs of reproduction. Yet, notwithstanding all the efforts of art and science, it has been impossible to subject it to a regular culture. Truffles grow at a considerable depth under the earth, never appearing on the surface. They are found in many parts of France. Those of Périgord Magny are the most esteemed for their odour. There are 3 varieties of the species, the black, the red, and the white. The latter are of little value. The red are very rare, and their use is restricted. The black has the highest repute, and its consumption is enormous. When the peasantry go to gather truffles, they take a pig with them to scent out the spot where they grow. When that is found, the pig turns up the surface with his snout, and the men then dig until they find the truffles. Good truffles are easily distinguished by their agreeable perfume. They should be light in proportion to their size, and elastic when pressed by the finger. To have them in perfection, they should be quite fresh, as their aroma is considerably diminished by any conserving process. Truffles are stimulating and beating. Weak stomachs digest them with difficulty. Some of the culinary uses to which they are subjected render them more digestible, but they should always be eaten sparingly. Their chief use is in seasoning and garnitures. In short, a professor has said, "Meats with truffles are the most distinguished dishes that opulence can offer to the epicure." The truffle grows in clusters some inches below the surface of the soil, and is of an irregular globular form. Those which grow wild in England are about the size of a hen's egg and have no roots. As there is nothing to indicate the places where they are, dogs have been trained to discriminate their scent by which they are discovered. Hogs are very fond of them, and frequently lead to their being found, from their rutting up the ground in search of them. Italian mode of dressing truffles. 1163. Ingredients: 10 truffles, 1/4 pint of salad oil, pepper and salt to taste, 1 tablespoonful of minced parsley, a very little finely minced garlic, 2 blades of pounded mace, 1 tablespoonful of lemon juice. Mode. After cleansing and brushing the truffles, cut them into thin slices and put them in a baking dish on a seasoning of oil, pepper, salt, parsley, garlic, and mace in the above proportion. Bake them for nearly an hour, and just before serving, add the lemon juice, and send them to table very hot. Time nearly 1 hour. Average cost not often bought in this country. Seasonable from November to March. Where truffles are found. In this country, the common truffle is found on the downs of Hampshire, Wiltshire, and Kent, and they abound in dry, light soils, and more especially in oak and chestnut forests. In France they are plentiful, and many are imported from the south of that country and Italy, where they are much larger and in greater perfection. They lose, however, much of their flavour by drying. Truffles have in England been tried to be propagated artificially, but without success. Truffles à l'Italienne. 1164. Ingredients: 10 truffles, 1 tablespoonful of minced parsley, 1 minced shallot, salt and pepper to taste, 2 oz. Of butter, 2 tablespoonfuls of good brown gravy, the juice of half a lemon, cayenne to taste. Mode. Wash the truffles and cut them into slices about the size of a penny piece. Put them into a sauté pan with the parsley, shallot, salt, pepper, and 1 oz. Of butter. Stir them over the fire, that they may all be equally done, which will be in about 10 minutes, and drain off some of the butter. Then add a little more fresh butter, 2 tablespoonfuls of good gravy, the juice of half a lemon, and a little cayenne. Stir over the fire until the whole is on the point of boiling, when serve. Time. Altogether 20 minutes. Average cost, not often bought in this country. Seasonable from November to March. Uses of the truffle. Like the morel, truffles are seldom eaten alone, but are much used in gravies, soups, and ragouts. They are likewise dried for the winter months, and when reduced to powder, form a useful culinary ingredient. They, however, have many virtues attributed to them which they do not possess. Their wholesomeness is perhaps questionable, and they should be eaten with moderation. Boiled turnips. 1165. Ingredients: turnips. To each half a gallon of water, allow 1 heaped tablespoonful of salt. Mode. Pare the turnips, and should they be very large, divide them into quarters, but, unless this is the case, let them be cooked whole. Put them into a saucepan of boiling water, salted in the above proportion, and let them boil gently until tender. Try them with a fork, and when done, take them up in a colander. Let them thoroughly drain and serve. Boiled turnips are usually sent to table with boiled mutton, but are infinitely nicer when mashed than served whole. Unless nice and young, they are scarcely worth the trouble of dressing plainly, as above. Time. Old turnips 3/4 to 1 1/4 hour, young ones about 18 to 20 minutes. Average cost 4d. per bunch. Sufficient. Allow a bunch of 12 turnips for 5 or 6 persons. Seasonable. May be had all the year, but in spring only useful for flavouring gravies, etc. The turnip. This vegetable is the Brassica rapa of science, and grows wild in England, but cannot be brought exactly to resemble what it becomes in a cultivated state. It is said to have been originally introduced from Hanover, and forms an excellent culinary vegetable, much used all over Europe, where it is either eaten alone or mashed and cooked in soups and stews. They do not thrive in a hot climate, for in India they, and many more of our garden vegetables, lose their flavour and become comparatively tasteless. The Swede is the largest variety, but it is too coarse for the table. Mashed turnips. 1166. Ingredients: 10 or 12 large turnips. To each half a gallon of water, allow 1 heaped tablespoonful of salt, 2 oz. Of butter, cayenne or white pepper to taste. Mode. Pare the turnips, quarter them, and put them into boiling water, salted in the above proportion. Boil them until tender, then drain them in a colander, and squeeze them as dry as possible by pressing them with the back of a large plate. When quite free from water, rub the turnips with a wooden spoon through the colander, and put them into a very clean saucepan. Add the butter, white pepper or cayenne, and if necessary, a little salt. Keep stirring them over the fire until the butter is well mixed with them, and the turnips are thoroughly hot. Dish and serve. A little cream or milk added after the turnips are pressed through the colander is an improvement to both the colour and flavour of this vegetable. Time. From half to 3/4 of an hour to boil the turnips, 10 minutes to warm them through. Average cost 4d. per bunch. Sufficient for 4 or 5 persons. Seasonable. May be had all the year, but in spring only good for flavouring gravies. Vegetables reduced to puree. Persons in the flower of youth, having healthy stomachs, and leading active lives, may eat all sorts of vegetables without inconvenience, save, of course, in excess. The digestive functions possess great energy during the period of youth. The body, to develop itself, needs nourishment. Physical exercise gives an appetite, which it is necessary to satisfy, and vegetables cannot resist the vigorous action of the gastric organs. As old proverb says, at 21 can digest iron. But for aged persons, the sedentary or the delicate, it is quite otherwise. Then the gastric power has considerably diminished, the digestive organs have lost their energy, the process of digestion is consequently slower, and the least excess at table is followed by derangement of the stomach for several days. Those who generally digest vegetables with difficulty should eat them reduced to a pulp or puree, that is to say, with their skins and tough fibres removed. Subjected to this process, vegetables which, when entire, would create flatulence and wind, are then comparatively harmless. Experience has established the rule that nourishment is not complete without the alliance of meat with vegetables. We would also add that the regime most favourable to health is found in variety. Variety pleases the senses, monotony is disagreeable. The eye is fatigued by looking always on one object, the ear by listening to one sound, and the palate by tasting one flavour. It is the same with the stomach. Consequently, variety of food is one of the essentials for securing good digestion. German mode of cooking turnips. 1167. Ingredients: 8 large turnips, 3 oz of butter, pepper and salt to taste, rather more than half a pint of weak stock or broth, 1 tablespoonful of flour. Mode: make the butter hot in a stewpan, lay in the turnips after having pared and cut them into dice, and season them with pepper and salt. Toss them over the fire for a few minutes, then add the broth, and simmer the whole gently till the turnips are tender. Brown the above proportion of flour with a little butter, add this to the turnips, let them simmer another 5 minutes, and serve. Boiled mutton is usually sent to table with this vegetable, and may be cooked with the turnips by placing it in the midst of them. The meat would then be very delicious, as, there being so little liquid with the turnips, it would almost be steamed, and consequently very tender. Time. 20 minutes. Average cost 4d. per bunch. Sufficient for 4 persons. Seasonable, may be had all the year. Turnips. Good turnips are delicate in texture, firm and sweet. The best sorts contain a sweet juicy mucilage, uniting with the aroma a slightly acid quality, which is completely neutralized in cooking. The turnip is prepared in a variety of ways. Ducks stuffed with turnips have been highly appreciated. It is useful in the regimen of persons afflicted with chronic visceral irritations. The turnip only creates flatulency when it is soft, porous, and stringy. It is then, consequently, bad. Turnips in white sauce. An entremet ought to be served with the second course as a side dish. 1168. Ingredients: 7 or 8 turnips, 1 oz of butter, half a pint of white sauce, No. 538 or 539. Mode: peel and cut the turnips in the shape of pears or marbles. Boil them in salt and water, to which has been added a little butter, until tender. Then take them out, drain, arrange them on a dish, and pour over the white sauce made by recipe No. 538 or 539, and to which has been added a small lump of sugar. In winter, when other vegetables are scarce, this will be found a very good and pretty-looking dish. When approved, a little mustard may be added to the sauce. Time. About 3/4 of an hour to boil the turnips. Average cost 4d. per bunch. Sufficient for 1 side dish. Seasonable in winter. The French navet. This is a variety of the turnip, but instead of being globular, has more the shape of the carrot. Its flavour being excellent, it is much esteemed on the continent for soups and made dishes. 2 or 3 of them will impart as much flavour as a dozen of the common turnips will. Accordingly, when stewed in gravy, they are greatly relished. This flavour resides in the rind, which is not cut off but scraped. This variety was once grown in England, but now it is rarely found in our gardens, though highly deserving of a place there. It is of a yellowish-white colour, and is sometimes imported to the London market. Boiled turnip greens. 1169. Ingredients: to each half a gallon of water, allow 1 heaped tablespoonful of salt. Turnip greens. Mode: wash the greens well in 2 or 3 waters, and pick off all the decayed and dead leaves. Tie them in small bunches, and put them into plenty of boiling water, salted in the above proportion. Keep them boiling quickly, with the lid of the saucepan uncovered, and when tender, pour them into a colander. Let them drain, arrange them in a vegetable dish, remove the string that the greens were tied with, and serve. Time. 15 to 20 minutes. Average cost 4d. for a dish for 3 persons. Seasonable in March, April, and May. Cabbage, turnip tops, and greens. All the cabbage tribe, which comprises coleworts, broccoli, cauliflower, sprouts, and turnip tops, in order to be delicate, should be dressed young, when they have a rapid growth. But if they have stood the summer, in order to be tender, they should be allowed to have a touch of frost. The cabbage contains much vegetable albumin, and several parts sulphur and nitrate of potass. Cabbage is heavy and a long time digesting, which has led to a belief that it is very nourishing. It is only fit food for robust and active persons. The sedentary or delicate should carefully avoid it. Cabbage may be prepared in a variety of ways. It serves as a garniture to several recherche dishes, partridge and cabbage, for example. Bacon and cabbage is a very favourite dish, but only a good stomach can digest it. Boiled vegetable marrow. 1170. Ingredients: to each half a gallon of water, allow 1 heaped tablespoonful of salt. Vegetable marrows. Mode: Have ready a saucepan of boiling water, salted in the above proportion. Put in the marrows after peeling them and boil them until quite tender. Take them up with a slice, halve, and should they be very large, quarter them. Dish them on toast and send to table with them a tureen of melted butter, or in lieu of this, a small pat of salt butter. Large vegetable marrows may be preserved throughout the winter by storing them in a dry place. When wanted for use, a few slices should be cut and boiled in the same manner as above, but when once begun, the marrow must be eaten quickly, as it keeps but a short time after it is cut. Vegetable marrows are also very delicious mashed. They should be boiled, then drained, and mashed smoothly with a wooden spoon. Heat them in a saucepan, add a seasoning of salt and pepper, and a small piece of butter, and dish with a few sippets of toasted bread placed round as a garnish. Time. Young vegetable marrows 10 to 20 minutes, old ones half to 3/4 of an hour. Average cost, in full season, 1 shilling per dozen. Sufficient. Allow 1 moderate-sized marrow for each person. Seasonable in July, August, and September, but may be preserved all the winter. Fried vegetable marrow. 1171. Ingredients: 3 medium-sized vegetable marrows, egg and breadcrumbs, hot lard. Mode. Peel and boil the marrows until tender in salt water, then drain them and cut them in quarters and take out the seeds. When thoroughly drained, brush the marrows over with egg and sprinkle with breadcrumbs. Have ready some hot lard, fry the marrow in this, and when of a nice brown, dish. Sprinkle over a little salt and pepper, and serve. Time. About half an hour to boil the marrow, 7 minutes to fry it. Average cost, in full season, 1 shilling per dozen. Sufficient for 4 persons. Seasonable in July, August, and September. The vegetable marrow. This vegetable is now extensively used and belongs to the cucurbits. It is the C. ovifera of science, and like the melon, gourd, cucumber, and squash, is widely diffused in the tropical or warmer regions of the globe. Of the nature of this family we have already spoken when treating of the cucumber. Cut vegetables for soups, etc. 1172. The annexed engraving represents a cutter for shaping vegetables for soups, ragouts, stews, etc., carrots and turnips being the usual vegetables for which this utensil is used. Cut the vegetables into slices about 1/4 inch in thickness, stamp them out with the cutter, and boil them for a few minutes in salt and water until tender. Turnips should be cut in rather thicker slices than carrots, on account of the former boiling more quickly to a pulp than the latter. Carrots. Several species of carrots are cultivated, the red, the yellow, and the witch. These, known as the creasy carrots, are considered the best and are very sweet. The carrot has been classed by hygienists among flatulent vegetables, and as difficult of digestion. When the root becomes old, it is almost as hard as wood, but the young carrot, which has not reached its full growth, is tender, relishing, nutritious, and digests well when properly cooked. Vegetable marrows in white sauce. 1173. Ingredients: 4 or 5 moderate-sized marrows, half a pint of white sauce, No. 539. Mode. Pare the marrows, cut them in halves, and shape each half at the top in a point, leaving the bottom end flat for it to stand upright in the dish. Boil the marrows in salt and water until tender, take them up very carefully, and arrange them on a hot dish. Have ready half a pint of white sauce, made by recipe No. 539, pour this over the marrows, and serve. Time. From 15 to 20 minutes to boil the marrows. Average cost, in full season, 1 shilling per dozen. Sufficient for 5 or 6 persons. Seasonable in July, August, and September. Boiled Indian wheat or maize. 1174. Ingredients: the ears of young and green Indian wheat. To every half a gallon of water allow 1 heaped tablespoonful of salt. Mode. This vegetable, which makes one of the most delicious dishes brought to table, is unfortunately very rarely seen in Britain, and we wonder that, in the gardens of the wealthy, it is not invariably cultivated. Our sun, it is true, possesses hardly power sufficient to ripen maize, but with well-prepared ground, and in a favourable position, it might be sufficiently advanced by the beginning of autumn to serve as a vegetable. The outside sheath being taken off and the waving fibres removed, let the ears be placed in boiling water, where they should remain for about 25 minutes. A longer time may be necessary for larger ears than ordinary. And when sufficiently boiled and well drained, they may be sent to table whole, and with a piece of toast underneath them. Melted butter should be served with them. Time. 25 to 35 minutes. Average cost, seldom bought. Sufficient 1 ear for each person. Seasonable in autumn. Note. William Cobbett, the English radical writer and politician, was a great cultivator and admirer of maize, and constantly ate it as a vegetable, boiled. We believe he printed a special recipe for it, but we have been unable to lay our hands on it. Mr. Buchanan, the present President of the United States, was in the habit, when ambassador here, of receiving a supply of Indian corn from America in hermetically sealed cases, and the publisher of this work remembers, with considerable satisfaction, his introduction to a dish of this vegetable when in America. He found it to combine the excellences of the young green pea and the finest asparagus, but he felt at first slightly awkward in holding the large ear with one hand, whilst the other had to be employed in cutting off with a knife the delicate green grains. Section 57.